Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gabbing the Ghouls, the segment that we do before our actual podcast episode that takes anywhere from 30 minutes to 1 full hour.
Woo! Actually, that's a good warning to put in.
Yes. During the segment, we talk about the various movies we've seen in between episode recording sessions. So if you don't want to hear us gab some ghouls, just skip ahead a bit, and you'll find the beginning of the actual episode eventually.
If you don't want to hear that, I'm gonna say it. You're a big old loser.
I'm gonna say you're missing out on some of the best material we have.
Got a lot of great stuff in here.
And personally. I have nothing. I did not watch. I watched one movie in theaters that we did all see. And then the first one of that series with Noah. And that's all that I've seen in between recordings.
But Nina, surely there's some other form of horror media you consumed.
Yes,
surely.
Thank you, Noah. Yes, actually. So first of all, I'd like to issue an apology to the author of Dust and Dread, the comic that I forgot the name of. It releases on Wednesdays. Please read it. I love it very much. It's werewolves and shit. And then I also read a gothic horror romance, The Haunting of Heatherhurst Hall by Sebastian Nothwell. It's my first Sebastian Nothwell book. He's a pretty prolific queer romance author. But I just have not gotten around to it. But with Halloween coming up, it felt appropriate. If you like Crimson Peak, you will like this book. If you like what Crimson Peak could have been, but you were kind of thrown off by the incest, you will like this book.
That's
if
me.
You like, if you like lesbians, you will like this book. This book did a great job of kind of delivering on everything I was expecting. It gets a little, I'm not going to say over the top, I will say camp, because I think it worked near the finale. It delivers on all of its kind of gothic tones.
Lesbians
and I really
going
like
camping, say it isn't so.
Camping in the haunted hall of Heatherhurst. But I really enjoyed the two main characters. Oh my God. Never mind. You're canceled. Get off this podcast. The main characters are very cute. I'm obsessed with them. There's a lot of quoting of classical literature, which is very typical of this kind of thing. And I really enjoyed the choices that were made and the descriptions of women and gowns and haunted things. So if that sounds fun to you, it's got about the same setup as Crimson Peak. You have a lesbian, and then a guy and his sister show up and woo her and take her off to England, and shit goes down. So definitely check it out if that sounds fun to you.
That sounds pretty fun to me.
Nice.
Movie-wise, Noah and I watched Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
It's Noah's first time seeing the first Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I'm
incredibly surprised you hadn't watched it.
Honestly. No, I was just thinking about that because
ever since we started dating, I've been like, I think you'd like it, we should watch it.
And I've been like, yeah, okay.
And then we just never have.
It's one of those things where it has been long enough, and in fairness to me, Beetlejuice kind of is Nightmare Before Christmasified a little bit.
Yeah.
Where the most annoying people you know are a little too into it.
Oh, okay.
But that being said, unlike Nightmare Before Christmas, which is good, but not like life-changingly good.
I genuinely think most people agree with that when it comes to the level of merchandising that Disney has framed around Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, it's their only Halloween product with any legs.
It's the only one that's recognizable that you see merch for, because it's got really good character designs.
Yeah. I mean, Jack Skellington is a great graphic tee.
But
I love Nightmare Before Christmas.
It's good.
It's good.
I just think I was overhyped it by far.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't allowed to watch anything scary as a kid.
Yeah.
And so when I finally hit adulthood and I was like, I need to watch some of these things that everyone said were really good, the stop motion stuff was where I started, because I already knew I liked stop motion. So I watched Coraline, and I watched Paranorman, and I watched Corpse Bride and Nightmare Before Christmas. And out of those four, I liked Nightmare Before Christmas the least. And I think that's just because it's definitely the most geared towards kids out of the four of them.
Mhm.
And it's got very classic storytelling and very like storybook storytelling, and I think that's in its to its benefit. But at the end of the day, it's like I think you really had to see it as a kid. I imagine it's like trying to show someone Star Wars if they didn't watch it when they were a child.
We didn't watch that movie though. We're gabbing it too much. We did watch Beetlejuice.
I just want to say really fast though. Yes, Nightmare Before Christmas. I think the storytelling is a bit shallow, and like slightly forgettable overall. But the music in that movie is fucking iconic.
I listen to that music every year.
Love it. Yeah,
it's very good.
Okay, Noah, talk about Beetlejuice.
I have. It's been a while since I've watched a movie that actually lived up to the hype that was built around it.
Mm-hmm.
And Beetlejuice did actually quite impress me in that regard. I had an absolute blast with it. I was scared because in the movie it's obviously spelled like the star or the planet or whatever the hell, you know?
Yeah.
And it is not spelled like that in the movie title. And I was writing it like the movie title the whole time. And I'm like, after watching the movie, I'm like, did I spell all this wrong?
Did I Mandela affect myself?
No, I did not. They just confused me. But I had a blast with it. I think it was really, really fun. I love Keaton. What a blast. It's actually amazing to me that most tired statement in the world, right? It's amazing that Beetlejuice the character became such an icon when all he is a sleazy pedophile.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And that's like the whole joke is that he's in love with a teenager.
Okay, so that's a simplification. First of all, I'm not defending Beetlejuice. I'm putting this out there right now.
Nina defending a pedophile.
I'm just saying he does not actually like want to marry Lydia because she's a teen. He wants to marry her because it's his ticket back to the living. It's the same. It's a very like cut and dry plot. It's a transactional
relationship. But
she is the only unmarried woman in that girl. She's a child, but she's the only unmarried person of the opposite sex in that house. And
gay marriage wasn't legal yet. Mom. So
this is true. He couldn't have married.
He couldn't gay marry anybody, Noah.
I have to say something that happened when we were watching this movie. Movie starts and I tell Noah, I didn't know that it was Alec Baldwin in this movie until like years after the first time I watched it.
Same.
And then Noah saw Adam's hands and was like, "Now that's Alec Baldwin." And then it cut to his face and Noah's like, "Is that Alec Baldwin?"
It was so funny. I called it on his hands and I'm like, "Oh, that's Alec Baldwin. I'm not stupid." Goes up to his face. I'm like, "Who the fuck is that?"
Yeah, I did not realize for a long, long time. But now, Noah, and thank God Jade's not here for this, so I can talk about this without qualm. But now that you've seen the Beetlejuice movie, you can listen to the Beetlejuice musical soundtrack.
Jade does hate musicals.
It's incredible.
I thought you were saying that because you had a peek into our family group chat for a second where we asked if anyone wanted to go see the second one with us. And Jade said, I haven't seen the first one and I'm not about to just to go see the sequel. And we were like, wow, we were trying to stage a wholesome family outing here and you just had to shoot us down.
It was so funny.
So we just saw it with Noah's mom.
But yeah, I've watched the Beetlejuice musical. I've heard it's a lot of fun.
It is really fun.
Yeah. I've only listened to the soundtrack on Spotify.
There were some references in the second movie that were pretty funny. They were pretty subtle, but very funny.
But Noah, what did you think of the second movie?
I had a blast. It is not as good as the first one for me.
Yeah.
I understand there's some conversation in the Discord, which you can get access to by contacting any of us hosts.
Yeah.
There's some conversation in the Discord about how it is a more entertaining movie, but not necessarily a better movie. And I don't know that I agree, but I've also only seen it once. So
yeah, that's true.
A friend of mine saw the movie twice and they're like, do you understand how good a Tim fucking Burton movie has to be for me to see it twice in the year 2024?
For a recent Tim Burton movie, this is
this is easily his best work
good.
in years. And I really do appreciate his commitment to like practical effects in this. It actually
was very nice.
That alone really helped, not only because they were a little over the top and it helped up the campiness of it, but it helped kind of drag the movie out of the modern era into a slightly more timeless, it looks nice so it has to be modern, but also everything almost is practical so it must be older.
Yeah,
it was a really good balance.
It has this really,
of that stuff.
really weird anachronistic kind of vibe to it that I appreciated. It made me, you know what it made me want to do? It made me want to watch the Rob Zombie Monsters movie.
I actually also kind of want to watch that, even though I've heard very mixed things.
My take on the first one versus the second one before we let Emma do their thing, because they also saw the movie, is I think the first one's story is better because it's so succinct, and I really, really missed Barbara and Adam, specifically Barbara. She's my favorite character in the first one. I think that the story is mostly her and Lydia's, and so having the second one focus so much about Lydia and motherhood and Delia and motherhood when the first one has so much of that vibe, if just Barbara's lack of presence really left a big hole in the story in general. I get why she couldn't be there because ghosts don't age, but boo. Story in the second one is just, there's so much going on compared to the first one. Is very, very simple story wise. There's a lot of like crazy shit happening, but the plot itself is very one and done. The second movie has like 3 or 4 converging plot lines, and maybe 2 or 3 of them could have been cut and the movie still would have been a fully fledged story.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say, there's nothing I love more than afterlife bureaucracy, which that movie had so much of. I love afterlife bureaucracy.
I think for me, I enjoyed it. Similarly, like the first movie is a staple and it's iconic and it's a classic. And it's really good for what it is and for what it was and how it's kind of stood over time. This movie was like fun, and I think tonally it was a worthy like sequel to the original. However, some of the choices made probably would have been fitting for like the 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
But today it was like, oh, you
mean like when
really
Soul Train was an actual current reference?
Yeah.
You really, you could have got away with it back then. Now it does make it feel more like a sequel to that movie, just because it is the same kind of, I don't want to say irreverence, because that feels like the kind of shit that an Andrew Tate Pro would say, and I don't mean it that way. I mean it in the way where it's genuinely,
it's an actual honest to God like, playful irreverence and not a hateful irreverence.
No, I mean it's I mean that I didn't super love that it was there. But I don't want to say offensive either, because I feel like that's a buzzword. But I think you get what I mean. Yeah. It's there, and it matches this tone of some similar jokes made in movies that are made around the same time as the first Beetlejuice. So you're like, okay. And I think they were banking on that to make it something that people would overlook.
Yeah.
Which seems to have worked for the most part.
Yeah, I just feel like they kicked up the comedy, particularly from Beetlejuice.
He's there so much more in the second one.
In certain directions that I was like, that was a choice to do that. And I don't think it was necessarily a good choice.
I can agree with that.
But I enjoyed it. I gave it like, I think a 3 or a 3.5 out of 5. But I don't know that it's a movie where I'd be like, I want to watch that again. I think I would just watch the original.
I agree. I really liked it all the same. I like I love seeing Jenna Ortega, and I think that in this one, I liked seeing her play a character that was like the grounded character in this family of weirdos versus like
her usual I'm the weirdo bit.
Yeah. It was a fun, while it's still the type of project that she works on. When I saw she was cast, I was really worried that it was going to be Wednesday too.
Yeah, me too.
But I think she did great. I liked the evolution of Lydia as a character. It felt like it made sense to me. And Delia was easily my favorite part. There were so many jokes that they made with her, where it also seems like, going back to the like vague themes of motherhood in the first one, it seems like she and Lydia grew closer, and I really appreciated seeing how that didn't mean that either of them had to like super change as people for them to get along. They just have accepted each other's kind of weirdness in a very fun way. So I enjoyed their relationship, I think, the most out of the whole movie.
Yeah. I love Delia in this movie.
She was so funny.
My favorite thing to come out of this movie is Jenna Ortega and Winona Ryder doing interviews together and seeing like their relationship and their friendship, and Jenna Ortega telling Winona Ryder like, you don't have to take press being like shitty. It's okay. You can like not listen to them and things. And I'm just like, I love them together and I want them to be best friends forever.
I'm so happy that they put Winona Ryder with people who will stick out for her, like David Harbour during the Stranger Things interviews, where she was saying that she like wasn't pretty growing up, and because she in the 80s they had these obscene beauty standards where Winona Ryder was like the odd looking one or the homely looking one when they would cast her in movies, and that shows like in like Heathers or in Beetlejuice. And it's like, no, she's always been gorgeous, and everyone pretty much figured that out long before society was ready for it. So I'm glad that she has people with her now who are like, you are a person and you have value, and you have always been a person at value. So
yeah, we love it.
I'm happy for her.
But Noah, what other movies did you watch?
Yeah, you got a list
I watched
here.
17 movies in between, and that's because Hooptober has started. Let me give you a little bit of a rundown, because I talked about this in the server briefly, but the gist of it is a guy who was saying, hey, I love Tobe Hooper movies. I'm going to watch a bunch of Tobe Hooper movies in October, call that Hooptober. And he, did a themed list for his first year, and it was a bunch of shit like that, And then in years after, enough people thought that was a great idea that he made rules about it. He's like, oh, must be at least 31 movies, must fit like, 7 or 8 different criteria, right? So I threw my list together. I'm having a blast going through with it. And that has definitely bumped up my numbers, because not only do I need to finish all 31 of these, or 33 for my list, by the end of October, but I also have other movies I'm watching in here, and I think I'm having a blast with that. But first, I would be remiss if I didn't say this. I watched Ma. Y'all know Ma 2019?
I have heard of Ma 2019. I've not heard good things.
The one
with Octavia Spencer?
Yeah.
I tell you, that shit sucks. It is actually jaw-dropping how middling a movie it is, to the level that it is elevated by Octavia Spencer being an honest-to-God great actress in it. Like, you don't realize how much this thing sucks because she's having such a good time. But man, I tell you, it's not good.
Oh, that's wild. I remember this was peak pre-Emma being into horror movies and being scared by horror movies. And I remember there was something in that movie trailer where she had stitched somebody's mouth shut. And that's like a thing for me. I'm like, oh, and it made me really uncomfortable. And I was like, that movie looks scary.
It's fun. If you watch it as a person who appreciates Octavia Spencer, I think you'll have a blast. But it's not good.
Okay.
Let's see. Love in a Violent Nature, had a blast. Definitely not a for everybody film. Very like intentional about its pacing. I will say though, if you listen to the way some people talked about it online, you would think that this movie was 12 hours long and didn't have a single cut in it and was the most plodding, boring shit you've ever seen in your life. I'm not saying everyone's going to like it, but it's not nearly like that. You just got to get into the headspace of what this movie is handing to you versus expectations of a traditional like camp slasher.
Yeah. I started watching it the other day while I was working on some other stuff, and I was enjoying the beginning of it, but then like at some point I was like, oh, I think this is a movie I really actually kind of need to pay attention to because it's so like quiet.
Yep.
And so
the
I
choice of
stopped.
Zero soundtrack that isn't actually like in world is very cool. I thought that was neat. The sound design for the forest is gorgeous, but it is one that you do need to pay attention to. So I feel that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I watched a silent movie from 1899 called The Devil in a Convent. It is 3 minutes long, and it's on YouTube. I really recommend checking it out because it's really just like a one little short stage play thing. But there's a lot of really fun like editing tricks because they're like, oh, we have film, we could cut around and have fun. It was just kind of fun. You know, you see the devil hop down into a hole in the floor to escape a priest. And the priest is like, oh my God, he went in this hole in the floor. But then through the magic of editing, the devil appears above him at the pulpit and he's just like looking down at him. It was fun. I saw Elvira, Mistress of the Dark for the first time. Never seen anything to do with Elvira in my life. Which feels like one of those things where I should have by now, and I just hadn't. And I think it's because when I learned who Elvira was initially, I was like, oh, I can't watch that movie. She's a harlot, and I'm a good Christian boy. Which is really funny because that's literally what the movie's about.
I think
you know.
I asked, I think in the Discord server a while back, and I was like, who is Elvira and like what's her fucking deal? Why is she important? Because when I started watching movies and stuff with the podcast and for the podcast, I would get a lot of ads and stuff about like modern day Elvira being like, oh my gosh, I'm such an icon of the horror like genre, and like I'm doing this like special thing for all of my old movies. And I was like, who is this lady? And she seems kind of annoying and insufferable.
Yeah, she's one of the old late night film host era people, where she would provide live commentary for shitty movies because the shitty movies were what the studio could afford. Late night cable shit.
Elvira is one of those kind of characters where it could so easily be a like female empowerment, but then like it just goes off the wrong way kind of a thing. But as time has gone on, she's become an icon because while that's where her character, it's kind of like Kesha. While her character started out that way as a real life person, Elvira is just a really cool person. She's pretty private, but the things that you do get to learn about her when she lets people learn things about her are very cool. She has been married to a woman for several years, and that only recently became publicly known. Good for her. There are pictures of her and her wife together. They're very cute. But yeah, she was a late night movie host, and because she's got such a like well-known character, everyone knew who she was. But then as a person, she's been able to maintain like a very private life, which is impressive for someone whose whole public-facing persona was big boobs.
Well, you know, it's because she's a redhead. Her whole look, she doesn't look anything like the character she looks Elvira.
Nothing. Yeah, when she's out of costume, you would not know.
She's secretly Chapel Roan.
It's all.
Oh my God, Chapel Roan Elvira crossover would go crazy. Are you kidding me?
But Noah, what did you think of the movie?
Yeah, sorry.
I think it was blast. Honestly, it was super camp. There's a moment she's going to collect her dead aunt's inheritance, and her dead aunt is just what she looks like out of the outfit. There's like a big like painting on the wall, and it's just her. It's just Cassandra Peterson. And Elvira's like, oh, look at her. What a freak. But, you know, a good time. I watched one other, because I watched, you know, I'm not talking about most of these because a lot of these aren't super worth talking about. Or, unfortunately, it's just something that, like, Jade would be super into. And since they're not here, I'll put it off until I have them in my living room watching all the Final Destination movies back to back to back to back to back, which they are not excited about. But I watched The Mutilator.
Well, they don't have to come over and do it. I do need to put this out there.
No, they do.
They do. Yeah, it's
okay. That's fair.
A requirement.
So, The Mutilator, also known as Fall Break. I swear to God, I put this movie on because this is from my Hooptober list.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching this, and I've wanted to watch this for years because I confused it with a different film. So I'm watching, and the thing opens with this kid shooting his mom by accident because he's cleaning his dad's guns in his unlocked gun case.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, what a fucking start. What the fuck? We get a jump 20 years in the future, and it's just a fucking Fall Break movie with a bunch of college kids hanging out, having a rip-roaring good time. Totally nothing that would make me think that this is a film called The Mutilator.
Yeah.
Nothing about this is a horror movie. It is just a goofy time for the next 40 minutes. And then for the last 25 or so minutes, it's a horror movie again. And it was so goofy. I think this is a perfect drinking movie, smoking movie, perhaps, if you are in an appropriate state. Just have fun watching this with people. I think that it, party movie. Good party movie where you're watching it just to have a good time.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like with a name like The Mutilator.
The soundtrack is the most generic, bouncy pop rock garbage. It's so goofy. They have a theme song. They're like, fall break, ba ba ba. Like,
oh my God.
It's so great.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Some real doofy ass shit.
I love the 80s. Was that an 80s one? Yeah, it's 84.
Oh yeah, that was the Hooptober qualifier, one film from 1984.
Nice. Back when I was in college, my college roommate made me go to riff tracks with her pretty frequently. And one of the movies that we saw was, I think it's called The Miami Connection, and that's like a cop movie. There's a lot of like action and shit in it, but the main characters are also in a band, and they sing a like My Little Pony ass song about friendship and the power of friendship. And I just love how the 80s movies. I heard Invincible by Pat Benatar came on my Spotify a while back, and just listening to it, I'm like, this was made for a movie. I can tell because of how earnest the lyrics are. We need to bring back overly earnest pop song themes for movies.
So good.
Emma, what did you watch?
Oh, what a question.
Uh-oh.
Emma doesn't know.
In the last 2 weeks, I haven't watched many movies. I've watched very few, specifically because I was like, I watched a lot of movies in between the last episode I was on to the episode I wasn't on. So I was like, I don't feel like I need to watch more movies because I can talk about the ones I watched. So I figure I'll talk about those. But I watched Insidious: The Red Door. Because it was on Netflix, and I remember Noah talking very positively about the movie.
So did you remember that positivity was with a huge caveat? There was a massive caveat to that positivity.
I remembered once I finished the movie. I remembered your caveat when I finished the movie, because
when you looked on Letterboxd and saw that I gave it like a 3.
Yeah, I also gave it a 3 out of 5. Because I was like, there's some fun stuff in here. There's some fun ideas. But like overall, there's a lot of also just weird things that they do where I'm like, why? And it's been a while, so I don't remember I don't remember the movie like incredibly fresh. But a lot of it I was like pretty bored, or there's just like weird things. I rewatched a movie from all of our childhoods that we were all forced to watch in school, most likely, like 1,000 times. Can you guess what movie it is?
How old is this movie?
It is from 2000.
Okay, I have a guess, but I gotta look it up.
Is it Gladiator?
No, it's not Gladiator. It's a movie that you would be shown so many times in school.
Yeah, I never went to school. I wouldn't know.
Were you
I don't
homeschooled?
No?
That's a lie.
That's part of the reason why we connected in the first place.
Everybody, I'm talking about the classic Remember the Titans.
Oh yeah, no, I was never made to watch that.
I did watch Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Only once though.
Is Remember the Titans a sports inspiration movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, my mom was really into The Blind Side, and she didn't even make me watch that.
It's also about
So
racism.
it's The Blind Side.
You have to remember that.
Yeah,
The
it's an
Titan is
important part
racism.
because the movie takes place like as segregation is ending in schools, and there's this football team where like they're being forced for the first time to have like everybody included in the team, and it's about kind of that conflict and all this other stuff. But it's something that I was shown so many times growing up, and I saw a TikTok where it was like a clip of it, and I was like, I wonder how that movie holds up. And I had a great time with it. I thought it was a really fun, well-done movie, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. Then I watched Oddity, which I won't talk about because we're talking about that today.
Really?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, I'm so excited.
I watched Revenge, which Noah, this is a movie you have also seen, and this director also has another movie in theaters right now called The Substance, which is getting rave reviews everywhere
about The Substance.
Yeah.
But I feel like I came into this movie with the wrong expectations because I learned about it when a TikToker that I like named Kit Laser was recommending some like horror movies. And he mentioned Revenge, and he was like, oh, it's like a revenge like movie, kind of the classic like revenge movie where like it's following a woman who's been wronged, but it's like it flips the genre on its head in a really interesting way. And so I was like expecting something else than what it gave me. And so I was slightly disappointed. I only gave it like 3 stars when I watched it. But kind of, I look back on it with fondness for what it was. And so I think if I were to rewatch it, I'd feel a little bit differently. But there is some like essay stuff. It's pretty heavy, but particularly...
it is just distinctly of that genre, yeah.
Yeah. I would not say it flips the genre on its head in any way. It just does what it does very well. But the final sequence... at the end, it's so good. And I had a great time with that part in particular.
It is great.
I'm definitely gonna have to watch this
I tell you that the building is fucking painted.
Yeah. Then I watched the new Netflix movie, The Deliverance. I don't know if you all heard about this movie at all.
I keep seeing it when I open Netflix up to watch Resident Alien. So.
Yeah. It's about this black family who moves into a new house and the house is haunted. And then like kids start getting possessed by demons and stuff. There was a really compelling narrative in the first half of the movie that I was really enjoying. And then the final bits of the movie, just full turn of like the most cringy like Christian movie you can imagine. Like God's Not Dead but horror. And I was like, oh my God, this is so bad.
That's so upsetting.
It really frustrated me because it had something really, I thought, great going for it in like the first half, and then it goes off the rails.
Is it so bad it's good in any way? Is it worth watching for that absurdity, or is it just like...
I think you guys would laugh at it a lot and you would have a good time.
All right. Definitely going to suggest that one next time that we don't want to watch something good.
Oh, no.
Because that sounds like a good time. Well, remember we watched, Three, the bad Christian.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was a Christian movie.
Me
at
neither.
The time.
That was so
that
fun,
was a jump scare in the middle after our 3rd Frank Peretti trailer.
Oh my God, that was so funny. Being like, wow, this is a lot of Frank Peretti. Why do I know that name? Anything else?
Oh yes, I still have more. Don't worry.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I watched Lady Bird, which is a Greta Gerwig movie that I'd heard incredible things about. I've constantly seen it on streaming everywhere, but I've never like actually sat down and watched it. For a lot of the movie, it felt a little bit aimless, but by the end, like I really caught on to what it was doing and like the meaning and the purpose of the story it was portraying, and I had a great time with it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I rewatched Chef, which I think I've talked about on the podcast before, my love for the movie Chef. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's so good. I love it. But I hadn't logged it on Letterboxd yet. So quick shout out. Then I watched Caveat, which is Damian McCarthy, the director of Oddity's first movie. I don't think it's as good as Oddity, but there are some really great moments in it. And overall, I had a good time with it. 4 stars. Then, as you heard last episode in my notes about the movie Baskin, I watched Magic Mike's Last Dance.
Yes.
Just as more research into this thing called sex. And it was really bad. Important. It was really, really bad. I had watched Magic Mike 1 and 2 like a little bit before the third movie came into theaters because I had read online that like the first one is actually pretty good, and it is. And then the second one is not as good, but not offensively so. But then the last movie is offensively bad. It's just really bad. I watched Plus One. It's a rom-com on Netflix, and I think definitely one of the better rom-coms that I've seen in quite a long time. Really, really, really enjoyed it. If you like rom-coms, highly recommend checking it out. I watched Coherence. Noah, have you heard about Coherence at all?
I don't think I have, no.
It might be your jam. Okay. It's on Amazon. It's some friends all meet up to have a dinner party as this meteorite is passing overhead. And as the meteor passes overhead, some weird shit starts happening. I don't want to spoil it, but it's it's really, really interesting. And I thought it presented itself in a really interesting way. A lot of people really love this movie. I personally didn't think it like stuck the landing like in a way that I found particularly satisfying, but I think it's still a worthwhile watch, and I think you'd get a kick out of it.
What'd you say it was called again?
Coherence.
Coherence, okay.
Yeah.
I looked up Convergence, and I'm like, that's not right.
That's not the one. I watched Baskin. Yeah.
Okay.
I watched Baskin, as we all know, from last episode.
We do all know this.
I hated it.
Yeah.
Did see that.
I won't go into detail here. I think it was better that I wasn't there last episode.
Probably, yeah.
Because I think you all like talked about it really beautifully and like really excitedly, and if I was there, I would be like grumpy and kind of shitting on everything. So I think we need to.
Oh wait, I can't say that. Jade, edit this out.
Then, last couple movies, I watched The Big Sick, which is a movie about Kumail Nanjiani and how he and his wife met and how they like got together. It's probably my favorite quote unquote rom-com. However, it is also terribly sad. I love sad things, but if that's not for you, then stay away. But if you love sad things, this is an incredible movie, and highly recommend you check it out. And then the last one I watched is a movie called Gifted, where I've seen TikToks about this movie a lot, and I saw it like came on Netflix in Canada recently, so I was like, I'll give that a watch. It was a fun time. It was about a child genius and a custody battle and trying to do what's best for her. And I gave it 3.5 stars. Is that the one with Chris
Evans?
Yeah.
Aha, yeah, okay.
You know it. You've seen the TikTok clips.
No, I just saw trailers, and that was before, I think that came out before Knives Out, so I wasn't like convinced that Chris Evans
Could act.
Was a good actor. Yeah. Because all I'd seen him in was Fantastic Four and Captain America. So I didn't know.
Yeah, true.
I hadn't seen Snowpiercer at the time, which, to be fair, it's a very similar character still to kind of the superhero-y, action-y archetypes. As far as the more like subdued or more like character-driven stuff, I had not seen it from him. And then Knives Out came out, and I was like, oh, fuck.
Oh, he can act. Way to go.
Way to go, Chris. Chris number 5 or whatever.
Yeah, there's
Chris
a lot
number
of
1
Chris's.
in my heart. It's too many.
But yeah, so those were all the movies I watched.
Hell yeah.
Wahoo.
And then I don't remember if I talked about this last time I was on the podcast, but I finished Clown in a Cornfield 3 and I loved it.
Oh yeah, I did too. It was really good. It was really fun.
That's a book.
That's a book, and everyone should read it. I posted about it on my Instagram story today, because I'm always thinking about it and always shilling it. Oh, very cool story. I was at Comic-Con in my city briefly. This over the weekend. I just finished. And while I was there, I met a local horror author who writes a lot of like kind of comedy horror stuff, very gory, like over the top shit. And he and I talked a lot. And at one point I mentioned really enjoying Clown in a Cornfield. And he said he's met Adam Caesar. And I'm like, oh well, that makes sense because he's from Pennsylvania. So that totally makes sense to me. And he was asking how he got the Clive Barker blurb. And the answer that he got from Adam was that he just shot his shot and Clive Barker answered his email. And I'm like, that seems like, I think at one point you told me, in reference to Adam Caesar, that I needed to have more white guy confidence or cis white guy confidence.
That sounds like something I'd say.
And I think about that a lot when I hold myself back from shooting my shot. I hear your voice in my head saying that. So that reminded me.
I'm so
of
glad.
that.
I'll live forever really in cool. That quote.
You will. Very much. But yeah, so that's my fun Adam Caesar anecdote. I still haven't met the guy. I'm literally the first thing that this author asked me was if I had met him. Like that was a common thing that you just did. He's like, oh my God, have you met him? And I'm like, no.
He seems to like travel around to cons a lot. So
yeah, especially in the area. I was gonna try and get out for the Clownfield 3 release, but ended up just being too busy with con prep myself. So but I'm gonna keep an eye out.
Yeah, one of these
next
days.
Time he turns up nearby, and by nearby I mean within a 10-hour drive of me.
I think he's almost always within a 10-hour drive of you. Philly is less than a 10-hour drive.
Yeah, Philly is, but you know, he could come closer.
Not to brag, but he responded to my tweet when I said I really liked the book, asking me to review it on Amazon, which I did. But I've practically met him.
Anyway, everyone should read Clown in a Cornfield. This is my review now, saying I really liked all 3 of them. The second one was my favorite. Like no. The second one was, I think, technically the best. The third was subjectively my favorite.
Yeah.
So
that's valid.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, should we jump into this episode? Welcome back to Casual Obsession, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies. My name is Emma. I use they, them pronouns, or kind of any. But who do we have with us today? Nina?
We have, yeah, that's me. We have Nina. I use they, them pronouns, but also kind of whatever. But please just use they, them. It's easier that way.
Don't say anything else.
I do. Okay, listen. It's too complicated to explain in the introduction to a podcast.
You just say they, them.
Stop interrupting me. Anyway, I'm also here. And so is Noah.
Hi, I'm Noah. Use he, they.
Hey, nice.
See how easy that was?
Oh my God, you're right. I was overcomplicating it.
Normally we have our dear friend and sibling-in-law, Jade, here with us. However, they're off and away being an incredible spouse to their partner, who is an amazing author doing some con stuff. So
yeah,
huge congratulations to them for doing some con stuff for the first time.
This is the technical second year that the author half of this duo is going, but this is Jade's first time attending, and it looks like it went a lot smoother with that partnership. So
that's good.
I can attest, cons are so much easier if you have a partner in crime. Yeah. So hell yeah, good for them.
Hell yeah, perfect. But today we are watching Oddity. This is a movie that came out earlier this year. Yeah.
Yep.
Earlier this year. It is directed by Damian McCarthy. This is his second film, and it's a good time. I really enjoyed it. I watched it, and then the other hosts told me I would get to pick a movie coming up, and so I was like, can we watch this one? And they were like, yeah.
Convenient.
For those of you who don't know, Oddity is a film about this woman who we see her kind of go out to her car at her like very remote house one night. And then she comes back and she gets a knock on the door from a psychiatric patient of her husband's who tells her that somebody snuck into her house while she stepped out to her car and to let him in. And it's this tension of her being like, should I trust this guy? Should I not? But then we cut to a year later, her twin sister, who is blind and runs a cursed oddities shop, reconnects with her dead sister's ex-husband and goes out to visit him and his new girlfriend at their old house, and things start happening. She brings a creepy fucking doll with her to this trip, and does not super explain why. She's just like, it's a gift for you all. A witch made it. And I'll leave it there for you. But let's hear from Noah about how this movie was critically received.
Hello, it's the Noah section of the podcast where Noah knows things.
Yeah, true.
So IMDb, we got a 6.7 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes with a 96%. Metacritic 78%. And Letterboxd with a 3.5 out of 5. I got an Ebert this week.
Ooh.
A new contributor, to the best of my knowledge, since we started keeping track. Sheila O'Malley gave this a 3.5 out of 4 for RogerEbert.com, or Roger Ebert.
Wow.
Since I spelled his name wrong.
Not quite chirky, but still a good one.
Not quite chirky. Caveat, Damian McCarthy's directorial debut was unnerving in the extreme. So too is his follow-up, Oddity. Oddity is, if anything, even more unsettling. And caveat, McCarthy created a creeping sense of dread and outright terror, sometimes from merely pointing the camera at a slightly ajar door. McCarthy has patience as a filmmaker. He can wait. He doesn't try to overwhelm with easy jump scares. He allows the sense of uneasiness to build and build. Both Caveat and Oddity share a fascination with potentially supernatural objects, maybe cursed, but also maybe sentient. In Oddity, it's a life-sized wooden man. There's something weird about these objects. They loom large in McCarthy's imagination. The actors are all excellent, with Bracken in particular a standout, playing a double role. Danny and Darcy are two very different women, with different energies and looks and postures. We never see them together, but we never doubt their bond. Menton is great as the incredibly frustrated Yana, moving from an entitled annoyance to outright terror, as she can't help but move closer and closer to the wooden man, trying to understand who he is, what he might want from her. How could all this end without tripping into cliche? We know Darcy has been right all along. We know Ted is a little sketchy. We know the house is weird. We might know how things will play out. I won't say more than this, but the final frame is so perfect it exceeds expectation. The moment is a callback, but also a glimpse of the future. It makes me wish I had seen Oddity at a packed midnight show. McCarthy does the hardest thing of all. He sticks the landing.
I think this definitely would have been a really fun movie to watch in like a crowded theater.
Oh, yeah.
I think I would have had a great time with that.
In that way, it reminded me of Talk to Me. In a couple ways, it reminded me of Talk to Me. But specifically, I think it would have been a really fun one to watch in theaters. That was definitely one of the best parts of Talk to Me, was being in a theater for it.
Oh, yeah. I also have a Twitter Brandon
and
today.
it's a good Twitter Brandon. I read this over your shoulder earlier.
Brandon says, a real hoot as they used to say. Plays like an plays like an extended episode of Tales from the Crypt. Real mean, real silly, and has a few rock solid, honest to God scares. Remember those? Had a blast with this. Big fan of Woodman. Put him in everything.
We need Woodman in the next Toy Story. Come on, let's turn
really
it
do.
Woody is already there.
No,
That's
Woodman is
plot.
completely different. It's a different name.
Not in my notes, he's not.
Spoiler for Noah's notes, damn.
Fucking incredible. Is that
So
everybody?
Emma, are you... Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Are you invoking host privilege to go first or host privilege to go last?
I'm gonna go first because we already know, I think, how I feel about this movie.
Really
I loved
bad.
it.
Oh!
Yeah, I loved it. I would never, for like an Emma recommendation, you can trust that I would never force you all to watch a movie that I think is bad. I think
that just makes
constantly
sense, frankly.
look for movies that are really good that I think you'll enjoy. And this one I had a great time with. This is very like low stakes horror, which is something as I was watching it, I just really vibed with. And I was like, I really miss this because a lot of horror movies towards the end just kind of go off the rails in a big way. And they're like, oh, now this is threatening like everything in the world or like everything in the city or just
It's gonna get out and then everyone will die.
Yeah, and they get a bit ridiculous, but just how like confined and controlled the horror in this film was, I was like, ooh, this is good. And the way it handles tension throughout, and then the times it does like leap out and get you are just so well handled, and I had like such a fun time. I gave this a 9 out of 10 personally. It's just so great. And I'm excited to talk about it.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
What about Nina?
Oh, that's me. I also really, really liked this one. I think similar to again, I compared it to Talk to Me, but I feel like as far as like kind of the vibe of horror movies that I expected to see when I started to get into horror movies, so stuff like in the vein of like kind of newer stuff like I'm saying like a lot because I'm thinking like what's the fucking Insidious and The Conjuring and Malignant and Black Phone and stuff like that, where it's very like the trailer really draws you in and then you go in and that is very much the set piece for it. Similar to Talk to Me, how it's like, it's a hand and we're all like, whoa, no way.
Holy shit, it's a hand.
When I saw the trailer for this one, it was the door answering scene. And I remember thinking, I really want to see that. And then I forgot it existed. So I'm glad that you brought it back to my attention.
Well, huge shout really quick to my brother Dan, because I had seen people on TikTok like talk about this movie and said they really enjoyed it and stuff. And it put it on the radar for me, but it wasn't showing anywhere near me at the time. And then when it came out digitally, he had messaged me and was like, oh, me and fiance, who I don't know if she'd be comfortable me saying her name on podcast, but we just watched Oddity and we had a great time with it and think you would really enjoy it. And so that kind of sprung it back to mind. And if I didn't mention that, I think I would get a text from Dan being like, how dare you?
So I think two things bear mentioning here. The first is that I agree with Brandon as far as like it feels like a Black Mirror episode or like an anthology episode because it has such a like focal point on the Woodman, and a lot of the it's very contained. We have like 7 or 8 characters total. It's very intriguing and mystery driven. You have a lot of questions that the movie is interested in answering, which I appreciate. And the ending shot is a very like end of an anthology ending to me, where it's like it leaves you like, oh, but I like that we get time to spend with these characters in this mystery so that it ends up feeling like a very fleshed out version of something that would usually be like, oh, this is a fun concept, and then we leave it. Secondarily, having just watched The Watchers by Ishana Ishana Night Shyamalan, Watchers, is set in Ireland, and this movie is Irish. So coming into this and hearing the same accents, but seeing a concept that is fully realized and uses some of the same kind of storytelling, there's something that is in both movies. I won't say what it is because it would technically be a spoiler for the Watchers. I don't want to be that much of a dick. But there is something that is a major plot point in both that I think was just executed better here, that made me retroactively just strengthen my opinions on The Watchers being like a movie that could have been so much better, because I'm now watching a movie that is better. And I'm like, well, here we go. I loved it. I loved the characters. I love the storytelling and the shots. And I really, really loved some of the moments were like really stuck the landing really hard. Some of the gore was exactly what I would have wanted and very shocking and very fun. There are a lot of moments where you're like, oh God, please don't do that. And they do it.
Yeah.
And we all know me. I love a good like psychiatric facility story. So this one is a pretty solid 8. It's probably closer to a 9 than a 7. So yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah. Awesome. Noah.
Right, I'm also giving it an 8. I said this in my review, but I really cannot overstate this. This movie's lighting sucks ass in its dark scenes, and that really bums me out because it's so dark and you can't see shit. Because in the well-lit scenes, it is really, really
pretty. But I had the same problem. I was watching it at night, and I had our TV side lamp on, which is the lamp we turn on when we're watching dark horror movies so that we can actually see what the fuck is going on. And even that wasn't quite enough for me to be able to feel like I was seeing everything I wanted.
That doesn't make any sense.
What?
You turn the lamp on to see the movie better?
Oh, so that we can still see the scenes going on without the room being dark.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was about to say that doesn't make any sense.
No.
Yes, it provides very little light to the room, so
Yes.
that the TV is our primary light source.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It's the light we have on in the room when we want a light on, but we also want to be able to see the TV. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
And usually that works pretty well. This time it wasn't quite enough for me to be able to see some of the scenes as much as I would have liked when they were super dark. So I can maybe it's our TV, maybe it's the version we watched because we watched ours on YouTube. If the Shudder version for whatever reason ends up being brighter, that'd be great.
I doubt it. Shudder's usually pretty murky, I feel like.
Shudder's usually worse, unfortunately.
I watched it on Amazon on my computer monitor. And on my computer monitor, there are a lot of movies that I still have a hard time telling what's going on in the dark. But I thought I was very easily able to kind of see everything. So I had a very different experience.
Yeah, maybe that's on us for the YouTube version then.
Once again, it wasn't the whole movie. I didn't mean to like derail my part of the review talking about this like that. Because it was literally only when they were like outside at night or in the house with all the lights out. And because there were some moments where that was clearly played as an aesthetic choice where like you're supposed to be wondering, what can I not see beyond the bounds of this light, like the flashlight? Because, you know, passing over things, having a little flash of like a ghost pop up kind of thing. Those moments is clearly intentional, but then when she goes outside to the car, it's so criminally dark that you can't see anything, and I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? I want to watch and enjoy this movie. Love Wooden Man, had a blast. That every one of the jump scares in this got me so good. It was I was very pleased every time we saw a ghost and we were supposed to be afraid. Every time a scare that did not involve Woody happened got me so good. And then every time the Wooden Man was clearly supposed to be a little bit of a scare, I'm like, oh my God, look, that guy looks so goofy. What's he doing looking like that? Why is he like,
me out, dude?
Oh yeah, no. But like every time he moved around, I'm like, that man in leather suit looking around. I liked it though. I had fun.
Hell yeah. I'm glad. Next up is content warnings, I believe.
We do have a few this time around.
A biggie is definitely home invasion. I think that's the first thing outside of the creepy Wooden Man. Home invasion is definitely like up there. I mean, we talked about it already. The one trailer scene was about like someone saying someone got into your house while you weren't looking.
Yeah.
It's a really good scene.
Mhm.
It was definitely the thing that made me want to watch the movie, and then I was afraid that when I watched it, it wasn't going to hold up because they were going to answer the question too quickly. And they didn't. Other stuff, obviously there's the creepy wooden man. He's very creepy looking. He gives off big like Doug Jones energy. But the face they have him like frozen in is very disturbing, and I love it. There are a couple scenes with him where I was like cringing because of how characters were interacting with him. There's medical malpractice. There's a lot of stuff involving a psychiatric hospital. A couple of our main characters are staff there. We have some characters that are patients there. Everything going on there. There's manipulation. There's kind of like mistreatment of mental patients. There's some stuff. So just be aware of that if that's a sensitive issue. And then this one I left for last on purpose. There is mention of sexual assault in which a character expresses the desire to do so. It does not happen. It is prevented, but this character is persistent in mentioning it. So just be aware of that.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good content warnings.
There we go.
Here we go.
Don't you all have something you want to like ask me?
Yeah, I have a question.
I don't actually.
Okay, cool. Then I'll ask my question. I was wondering how scary this movie is, maybe?
Oh, what a great question, Nina. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
It's pretty scary. We've talked about like it handles tension throughout like very well and very effectively. The times where it does kind of jump out at you and it has its scary moments, like they land really well. And I think it's an incredibly effective scary movie. I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10 scary. Does that feel right?
Scary.
Feel right to you all? Noah, you're making a face.
No, but go on.
What would you give it, Noah?
I don't know. I don't think about them like that.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a problem. And also, like, we would not have any reference points for a scary rating for Noah because he never does them.
That's
so
true.
If he said 3, we'd be like in relationship to what? What's a 7? So
yeah, I think so often I give only like 1s to 3s, or like
Host was a 7, probably.
Was Host a 7? I bet I gave that like a 10.
I haven't seen Host. I need to.
Carmichael Manor has to be up there for me too, just because it didn't leave my head for like the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
But that was just like really good atmosphere building.
I think this is for now, since we're all weighing in, I might as well. I think for me, when a movie is really scary, I will need like a palate cleanser for it. Usually I'll be like, oh, I can't go to bed after this. But for some reason, maybe it's just the storytelling in Oddity or the characterization or the way that things end for certain characters. I did not feel uncomfortable having finished it in a way that made me want to watch something lighthearted to cleanse. I ended it feeling pretty satisfied, which is that's my personal metric for how scary a movie was, is do I need to force myself to move on from this concept? And I didn't with this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think in those instances, that's what causes me to give, I don't think I've given a 9, but like giving a 9 or a 10 is like, this shit stuck with me and I was scared once it was over. But this movie, I was pretty tense throughout, and the moments where it wants to scare you, it does so very effectively. And there are some scenes that like really stuck with me visually that I was like, ooh, that was like a really cool scare, and I really like that scene. So that's why I'm giving it a 7.
That makes sense.
And Noah never questioned me again.
Yeah.
I will.
Okay. Well, with that out of the way, we are going to move into our spoilery section. So you haven't seen the movie, go
Get
watch
out of
it
here.
and come back. If you're fine being spoiled, you should watch this movie and come back anyway, because it's a fun
movie.
time. But for everybody else, or if you really don't care, here we go. I'm going to do my classic reading Wikipedia, so bear with me. Alone one night, Danny Odello Timmis, the wife of psychiatrist Ted Timmis, is brutally murdered while renovating the couple's newly acquired country house. Olin Boole, one of Ted's former patients, visited Danny that evening, warning her that a stranger had infiltrated the home. Olin is ultimately convicted of the crime and is later found brutally murdered in his room in the psychiatric hospital. 1 year later, Danny's twin sister, Darcy Odello, a blind clairvoyant with psychometric powers, is visited by Ted at her Cabin of Curiosities shop in Cork, and the two make plans to visit again. Several days later, Darcy arrives unexpectedly at the country house where Ted now resides with his new girlfriend Yana, a pharmaceutical representative. Preceding Darcy's arrival is the shipment of a large crate containing a strange, life-sized wooden mannequin. Ted departs to his night shift at the hospital, leaving Darcy alone with Yana, who wishes to leave, but is prevented from doing so when her car keys vanish. Yana is frightened when she notices the mannequin inexplicably moving positions and drops her cell phone from an upstairs landing, destroying it. Upon examining the mannequin, Yana finds several strange objects inside holes in its head, including photographs of Danny and Darcy, locks of hair, a tooth, and a vial of blood. After observing what appears to be Danny's apparition in the house, Yana panics and manages to flee after finding her car keys inside the crate the mannequin was transported in. Ted returns to the house to find Darcy alone upstairs. Darcy reveals to Ted that she knows who he was responsible for Danny's murder. She reveals that she killed Olin to avenge Danny, but upon performing a psychometric reading of Olin's glass eye, she discovered he was in fact innocent. Rather, it was Ted who arranged Danny's murder, enlisting the help of Ivan, a brutish orderly at the psychiatric hospital. Olin overheard discussions between Ted and Ivan regarding the plan to kill Danny, and upon his planned release from the hospital, he arrived at the house that evening to warn Danny. To prove his innocence, Ted tells Darcy he is going to meet with the investigator who presided over the case and have the investigator phone her to explain the evidence. Ted returns to the hospital and calls his cell phone. Darcy, unaware that Ted has removed a trapdoor cover on the floor near where he left the phone, goes to retrieve it and falls to the stone floor below. At Ted's command, Ivan visits the house to ensure Darcy's fate, only to be stalked and brutalized by the wooden mannequin, which Darcy appears to have supernaturally animated before she succumbed to her wounds. Sometime later, Ivan, having survived the attack, is committed to the psychiatric hospital by Ted. To ensure that Ivan does not confess to Danny's murder, Ted sets free a violent cannibal in the hospital who brutally kills Ivan. Ted returns to the country house where he now resides alone. Yana broke off their relationship, disturbed by Ted's nonchalance that both Danny and Darcy died in his home. On the doorstep, Ted finds a small box delivered from Darcy's Oddity shop. Inside is a call bell that Darcy had earlier shown him, which she indicated was haunted by the ghost of a bellhop who died in a local hotel and kills whoever rings it. Ted defiantly rings the bell and momentarily observes his surroundings with no indication of the spirit. As Ted begins to relax, he is unaware of the bellhop spirit standing behind him. And that's the movie.
That's the movie. So listening to the description, it hit me as someone who has been thinking a lot about gothic romances and horrors recently, that this is a modern version of a very like gothic story. Because if you set this in like the 1900s in a big gothic mansion, this story would still work pretty much exactly the same way. And it would feel very, very classic in a lot of ways, with the husband murdering the wife with the help of an orderly, and the patient overhearing everything through the walls and trying to warn her, and then the sister coming and the ghost of the dead wife haunting the new girlfriend, and her fleeing the mansion in the countryside. Like, that's so classic. And I love how until hearing the synopsis, it didn't strike me that way, because the instead of being like a radio silence mansion, this is a very like old school mansion, but the way that the couple moving in have decorated it and styled it is very modern. So it doesn't really feel like this big old Irish like castle or anything, because they have these very modern appliances and like couches and tables and stuff in there. I thought that was interesting. It just clicked with me while you were saying it.
Now, I'm not too familiar with Gothic romance, but what I do know is, and what I feel like this movie is missing, and so it couldn't possibly be Gothic, is where's the incest?
Yeah, so I did see someone tweet on I saw a tweet on Twitter earlier that was like a Gothic story without incest is like food without spice. And I was like, you know what?
That's incredible.
I don't know. I think the main characters being twins is like
Close
and then
enough.
it like having your main character be the twin trying to solve the murder of her sister is like, it doesn't have to be like actual literal incest, but strong like sibling bonds is, and like the familial history and trauma is a big part of Gothics. So that would still
That makes
work.
sense. I love that. I think that's a great read. One thing that I was reminded as you were talking was, and something that I particularly enjoyed, the orderly sucks.
He does.
And he's a bad
Oh, yeah.
person.
He's
However,
truly mean guy.
yeah, as the husband is talking to him and he's like, hey, I need you to go to my house and kill my wife, the orderly's like, really? Why do you want to kill her? Just divorce her.
Yeah.
He's like the voice of reason there, and I think it's really fucking funny. And then the husband's just like, she would never be able to get over me.
It's so
I'm like, that's
funny.
so shitty.
It's so funny because you find out at the end of the movie that Ivan was a patient that Ted released early in order to hold like this power dynamic over him, which is a really great twist and makes so much sense. So to have someone who has been treated for we don't know what, but has clearly like at least developed and learned and used therapy to the point where when presented with a problem, his immediate solution is, why don't you be a fucking adult about it?
Yeah.
I've been to therapy. I know the answer to this one. It's communication. And then the doctor's like, actually, no, it's murder. And Ivan's like, well, if you insist.
You're the doctor.
Yeah, what do I know?
You must know.
Yeah. I gotta say, though, the scene... So we get that scene at the beginning of the movie where we see the
Olin
patient
Boole.
come. We see Olin come to Danny's door and is like, hey, somebody snuck in. Like, please let me in. We later see the rest of that scene where she turns... We're kind of led to believe that she lets him in because the scene ends with her reaching towards the door, and then it's like a year later and we find out she died. But we see that the rest of that scene later in the film where she doesn't let Olin in, and she kind of... He's like, I love Olin, for one.
I love
Such a good
Olin
boy.
so much.
But he's like, why won't you let me in? And she's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, okay, well, can you call the police and I'll stay here with you until the police arrive? Or she threatens to call the police, and he's like,
yes,
please
do that immediately.
And then she's like, I can't, my phone doesn't work. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna like run back to town and try to get help. Please just stay here right by the door. And if you hear anything, like, leave and just fucking run. And so he leaves, and seeing that he left and everything, she starts kind of very clearly believing him and like calls back after him, but he's gone. And so she goes back, and she has this like tent set up because they don't have like their furniture and everything yet. She has a tent set up like in the main room by the door, and she's had a camera set up in the house because her and her sister obviously believe in like ghosts and spirits and things. She's set up this camera to take pictures when like movement is happening. And so she sees the camera and like grabs it and brings it into the tent with her, zips up the tent. And then she's looking through the photos and sees that there was in fact a guy who came in who's wearing a creepy as shit mask. Masks get me. That's like
and
one
this
thing
is a
about
really
horror for
creepy
me.
mask. This isn't the hush, okay, I kind of have a mask kink mask. This is this is not a good mask. This is scary.
Scary mask.
Scary mask.
So she sees this guy on the camera. She's like, fuck. And so she starts to like slowly unzip the tent. And then he just like pops out of the side of the tent, like into frame. Fucking biggest scare of the movie for me, and I love it a lot.
So good.
It's so good. It's so well done.
Oh, the cut of him advancing on the tent to the tent being drenched in blood and him just like collapsing down to sit.
Good
Deeply
shit.
Upsetting.
Yeah, it's such a good scene.
It's so much better than if they were to like do the like Psycho or Halloween thing where it's like, oh, we're gonna show the like, no offense to those movies, great movies, but we've seen it a lot, and having the cut and leaving it to your imagination, so good.
Yeah. Noah, what did you love about the movie that you want to talk about?
A lot of stuff, honestly. I love all the characters. You'll probably end up hearing about this in the notes later, but I just keep going back and forth on I love Yana. I hate Yana. I love Yana. I hate Yana. Oh my god, what a bitch. I love her. Oh my god, what a bitch. I hate her. And it's really great.
That is the Yana experience.
Before I had decided how I felt about the the husband and his little woman. I was like, well, we'll see how I feel about them because, Danny feels a little weird. I don't know how I feel about this.
Darcy was my touch point for how I felt about anyone for most of the movie.
Man, Darcy appearing and saying, "Get out of here." I'm like, holy fuck.
Shit, she
scared
the
shit
fuck
out of me. And then I was just like,
I think you have them confused. Danny is the dead one and Darcy is the blind one.
Darcy when Danny's, do you mean when Darcy?
No, Emma's right.
Okay. Oh, I meant when fucking Yana takes out the shit from his head. I was still talking. I was talking about Darcy, and Darcy pops up and is like, "Put that shit back," and I was like, "Oh, Jesus."
Yeah, no, I was talking. I just confused the names.
Oh,
no. Danny's ghost being like, "Get the fuck out of this house now."
Yeah.
And then
not
Darcy
in anger either, but like in, "I don't want you to die. You don't deserve to die."
Yeah, very cool of Danny.
I really appreciate that Darcy's immediate conclusion of that is like, oh yeah, that's totally correct, and I was being mean, so thank you, Danny.
My sister is much more level-headed than me.
I was totally ready to let Yana die, but Danny's right on that.
So good.
The shot of Darcy in the loft after Yana leaves, and when Ivan or Ted
is it in that like curled up in the ball, it was
right,
Ted. Yeah,
that was that's my favorite shot in the movie of her curled up right at the on the wall there. Oh god, it's so good.
I will say one thing, and this is a stupid annoyance, but it bugged me when it showed him clearly just walking away without taking the thing out of the floor. And we got plenty of shots of the floor being covered. And then it was like, well, actually, he took the thing out of the floor.
As a storyteller, I understand.
As a storytelling thing, I get it. We are experiencing the movie from her perspective and what she can know. And he did it quietly, so she didn't know. But there was a small part of me that was like, this feels a little contrived, don't you think?
I mean, I think that there was potentially a way to have shot it, and maybe I need to rewatch because maybe this is true. There's potential, and maybe I just like, this is one of those things where it's like maybe my memory has rewrote itself. It's totally possible that it was there.
No, it was not. I think because I remember seeing the light glare on the floor because it was some of the only light in the scene was glaring across the wood. And I remember thinking about how nice the floor was lit up.
It still could have been like out of shot because she had to walk a bit before she got to it.
Right. But we saw the floor in between her and the phone. I think if the camera had just been closer to the floor so that the phone took up more and then like slowly rose up as she started to walk toward it and revealed it, I think it could have worked. But also, I'm not the guy who made a very successful film. So clearly other people don't seem to have this kind of hang up in the same way that I did. And also I got over the hang up immediately because I'm like, I mean, I should have thought about that because it showed her filling the floor in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Good callback.
Gorgeous little house, by the way.
Yeah, I love it.
I wish I had a better idea of how the house was laid out. Early on, I was really excited to see the vastness of the big, like, semicircle house.
Mm-hmm.
Big, like, carriage house converted to a house kind of thing. I was really excited to see more of it. And, we see part of the straightaway where the entry area and dining table are. And we get an idea of where other things are. I would have loved to spend more time in that house, which since the movie's very quick, we weren't going to be able to.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I just would have loved to see more because it was a really great set.
It is really great, for sure.
I think part of that is limited intentionally by the fact that Darcy is our main character, and we need to make sure that, she would not venture outside of an area that she can be reasonably aware of. So having her, it would be hard to have her explore the rest of the mansion. But maybe have it. Yeah. I like, my brain's like, oh, maybe have Danny tour it in the beginning, but Danny's also like kind of in a position where she can't really do that. I would like to briefly switch topics to a different location in the movie, which is Darcy's Oddity shop.
Yeah. I love the Oddity shop.
That was so cool. And I liked the way that she runs it. I like how well that establishes her character as it's so well against Danny as someone who is like does not take shit at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she's so nice to Ted in the beginning too. I was so mad on her behalf when she shows up and she's like, Did he not say that he invited me? And Yana's like, no. And Ted's like, oh, I wasn't being serious. And I was like, I hate this guy. Because up until that point, I was kind of like, okay, like Darcy seems to like actually like him to some extent. Because I think at that point, Darcy still thought that Olin had done it. So she's all team Ted. And then once she performs the eye seance, she's like, oh shit,
a seance, if you will.
I will not. A seance?
No, see, because
you see it. Oh fuck, I really liked when the way that she sympathizes with Olin having killed him, and then retroactively discovering she was wrong, and being able to knowing why he was even what's the word I'm looking for? Committed in the first place. How she immediately finds a great amount of sympathy with him, for that and for being able to justify why he was in there in the first place, which is that his mom had abused him and blinded him in one eye, and he murdered her, and that's why he was committed to this psychiatric facility. And she's like, hey, listen, if I had one eye left over and I was going to be able to keep it or lose it, I would be willing to kill for that too. So that was
very
really
reasonable.
very, very good way to like write that. I like that relationship that we never get to see on screen of Danny's kind of, or Darcy's kind of like emotional relationship with Olin and how it evolves as she realizes what's true and not true about him. And we, the viewers, get it at the same time.
Yeah.
You like Olin, Noah?
I like Olin a lot.
Yeah.
He's a good boy.
He has the most Irish name in the fucking world. Olin Boole. Holy crap.
I think we see the orderly interact with Olin, and the orderly is an asshole. But lays down like such a terrible burn on Olin verbally that I was like, that's like really a shitty thing to say, but that's fucking creative.
What did he say again?
Olin,
so
is that with
he
one
asked,
eye or two?
Yeah,
oh,
he's
shut the
like,
fuck
Olin,
up,
is that
Ivan.
with one eye or two? And Olin says one. And then the orderly laughs and is like, that'll be easy to remember. And I'm like, what a piece of shit, but what a good line.
Oh, yeah.
I was texting Emma while I was watching the movie, and that was the first scene Ivan shows up in, is when he is harassing Olin. And he walks in, and this is like, he's got cheekbones and jowls for days, this man. He's got like a very like, he's got like the way that some people draw Peter Cushing sometimes, where it's just like the cheekbones and the paunch. Very, very remarkable looking dude, honestly. Very scary, very ghoulish.
Very, very, very classic universal monster face, and I mean this in a kind way.
Yeah. The critic from Ratatouille. Anton
I really think that you're imagining him much more gaunt than he is.
He is quite gaunt. No,
He's
in the
pretty
lighting.
Gaunt.
Okay.
Noah's making
he's
faces.
More of a Frankenstein face. Like a Boris Karloff.
Okay. That's not far from... I think there's a spectrum, and he's hitting all of these points.
Sure, yeah. I just don't think he's as gaunt as, like, Cushing. It doesn't matter. It was... What the fuck?
I'm sorry. I need you. The picture that comes up when you Google his name. It's like literally this is how you draw, or how you have described your D&D character to me. Levels of gaunt.
I think you did say something about that as you were messaging me about the movie.
I did. I was like, this is the gauntest man I've ever seen in my life.
Which is funny. One of my notes in Baskin talked about the man with the longest face I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. True. There are a lot of just... Olin Bull's actor is a very, like... it doesn't look like he's been in almost anything else.
Honestly, I was looking into this. Almost everyone involved in the production of this seems to have been involved in the production of this. And that's kind of...
He was in The Northman?
Not much else.
That makes
sense.
He
was in The Northman. He was a character who was defined by a glass eye as well. Oh, the Olin Bull's actor. Yeah. His character.
Does he actually have a glass eye?
Yes, he does.
Oh.
Yes.
That makes a lot more sense now.
I can't read that. That's a very Norse looking name. But Eriker Blaze Eye.
He needs more work. Hollywood.
He does.
He's good.
He's good.
Get him some jobs.
I want to see him in more things. He was very good in this one. He played the he played the kind of character where like you want to believe him, but like you can't.
But everything
about him, and
like,
he's aware. It's so sad because he's fully aware that the everything about him,
his weird frantic energy, his glass eye, like
he's like, I know I'm off-putting, but I am literally begging you to listen to
with his
right
heterochromia glass eye and his I'm a meth head energy, and he's like, there's someone in your house, you need to let me in, and it's like, no one's gonna let you in. And he's like, I know you're not gonna let me in, but I promise you this is very serious. I love him. Really, really good character. Very, very good time.
Very good. I think in like the scene where they find him dead, or where the other patient finds him dead, is very well shot and well paced. There are so many ways that you could have done that so cliche, and it was not done that way. Also, I will say I like the way that they have Ted be the one that kills Ivan at the end, but I also, given the absolute carnage that Woodman fucking put upon poor Olin Bull, I wish we had gotten to see that happen to Ivan.
Yeah. That would have been nice.
Mm-hmm.
I liked getting the way that they communicate how Darcy puppets the Woodman was very fun as well. It seems as though she's almost like I don't know, like she pulls at her chest like she's pulling like at her like soul, or like the strings of it. It's very interesting because you can tell that like she is however this thing works, it's connected to probably like her motivation for needing it, by having these connecting things to Danny, like the picture of her and Danny in there. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. It makes me very curious as to like what might be behind the like reasoning for that.
Yeah. I know it's largely based on Jewish folklore of the golem.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have picked up on that because I'm not very familiar.
The only clue I had was, oh yeah, scroll in the head. Yep, that's a golem, all right. That was my immediate thought, and then everything else, I'm like, I don't know what the rest of this is supposed to signify, but I'm having a good time.
Yeah. Also, I'm just learning, this just in, breaking news.
Oh.
This director did or has done a number of short films, which are apparently all available on YouTube. But one of them, they're all set in the same world as this movie. And one of them is called How Olin Lost His Eye. And is about Olin. So sad that I haven't seen the short film, but sad that we get a short film of this boy being abused by his mom and losing his eye because of it. And then we see him again in this film being such a good boy, and then he gets killed by a large wooden creepy doll.
Yep. Well, that's also, just another reason that I have to watch Black Sails, because apparently he plays a main, or not a main, but a major pirate in that one. So.
Oh, nice.
Hell yeah.
Also, for those who have seen Caveat, his first film, there's a creepy rabbit doll that is in the little toy shop.
Not saw toy
shop,
that.
Oddity shop, cursed object shop, not toys, definitely not toys.
No, do not play with. Yeah, that was really interesting. I saw that when I was scrumbling the Tumblr, you know.
Yeah.
But I was scrolling the Tumblr tag. I saw shots from Caveat, which can I just say that's one of the hardest names for a film ever.
Caveat?
Yeah, I would totally watch a film called that. Sight unseen.
Well, now you can, because it's on Shudder.
Hell yeah. Thanks, Shudder.
I think Oddity is definitely better than Caveat. Caveat has some flaws, and it is also just a very like dreary movie. Mm-hmm. But there's some incredibly effective imagery. And there's some parts that like really freaked me the fuck out. So I had a good time with it.
Hell yeah.
One thing that I really enjoyed as you were messaging me is you were like, I think you said, I hate it when there are movies where like the child or somebody is drawing the creepy things they've seen and it's just like the coolest fucking art style.
That was such a huge problem I had in this one. Why were those pictures so good? They had like a serious like ink blot this actually does genuinely annoy me sometimes. Specifically in this case, it's like you cannot do that by accident. The reason that they make the characters have this style because it looks dark and disturbed and like chaotic. But the thing is, to get a messy dark ink blot background on a very clean sketch like that and leave the sketch empty, you have to mask the sketch and then do the ink blots and then take the masking off. So that's very, very intentional. There's no way to do that in the kind of chaotic, haze-driven kind of way that they want us to convince us that these characters kind of had a pencil and were like madly scribbling these drawings. But it does look very cool. It's convincing to me in like Devil's Candy or in the TV show Utopia, where the characters are artists with full access to materials who also just happen to be possessed or tortured in some way, that they are communicating that through art that they are doing professionally. In this one, it looked so cool. I was willing to excuse it except for like one picture where I was like, okay, that looks too cool. I have to draw a line here. No one's that good at shit. But it looks really cool. I would pay money to have one of those on my wall. I think Noah would be down with that. We have cool fucked up Woodman art.
It would be pretty cool. I do love Woody.
I hated when Yana put her fingers in his mouth. Don't do that.
Yeah, I don't know why she did that. I really didn't like that at all. That was
terrifying and very uncomfortable. I'm glad it didn't lead to anything.
Yeah.
Except Darcy yelling at her. But like each time she reached into one of those fucking holes and like pulled something out, I was like, something's about to happen, and it's gonna get me really bad.
I'm so glad that she got the forceps, because when she was gonna fucking reach in with her fingers into those tiny holes, I was like, Yana, I'm begging you right now.
Please.
I mean, it's what his head's for. You know, he's a bowling ball.
He did look very
head.
bowling ball adjacent, but you really, I really don't. Ooh. I loved the scenes where he would just kind of weeping angel between shots, where you would you'd kind of, whenever the camera was like a character, they did this really good thing where the character looks at him before the shot changes so we see him. And so when they look, you're like, oh, he's fucking moved again, hasn't he? And then sure enough, he's like staring directly at the camera, and it's like, God! Loved it. 10 out of 10.
I really love Yana and Darcy's kind of exchanges as that stuff is happening, where Yana will be like, did you put this thing out, or did you move this thing? And Darcy's like, no.
She's
Do
so
you
full of
see where
shit.
my keys are? Stares pointedly.
She's like, okay,
That's
listen.
like such classic. In like Avatar The Last Airbender, like all the jokes with Toph, where they're like, oh my gosh, did you see that? Or like, look over there. And, or like, what's this? And then shows her a piece of paper. She's like, I can't fucking see. It was like so reminiscent and reminded me so much of those, as Yana was just like, have you seen my keys? And she just kind of like blank face. It's like, no.
I loved their dynamic so much. I loved when they're sitting at the table, and anytime they talk to each other. I did love Yana pretty early on when they're just staying in this house, and Yana says something to the tune of, you know, it's actually kind of fucking weird that you still want to stay in this house, I'm not gonna lie. And I was like, yeah, she's right about that, actually.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that her call to him at the end was like, this is some weird shit. I don't know what's going on with you, but I'm not doing this anymore. You're weird. I'm breaking up with you. Goodbye.
Yeah. I really loved, around when we're first introduced to her, she's like taking pictures of the house or something and shows like the boyfriend and is like, yo, is this not your ex in this picture? And he like looks at it, and it's just kind of like a face in the darkness, kind of. It's very hard to see. And he's like, oh, she must have like just taken that like when she was still around. And she's like, no, I just took that picture.
Yeah.
But it's such great setup because Danny was like taking pictures looking for ghosts in the house because she wanted to prove to her husband that ghosts were real. And it's like a really old house, so she thought there might be something hanging around, and she had called her sister in like the one spot where there was cell service and was like, yeah, like I'm not seeing anything, and I'm so surprised that there's no like ghosts or anything like hanging out here that I found so far. And just the setup to show that like Danny's ghost is still hanging out. I was like, ooh, that's cool.
I love as a character to be like, to believe in ghosts and not find any, and then to end up being exactly the ghost that you were looking for, as the like someone could have been wronged in this house, and it's like, oh bitch, give it 10 minutes.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious what you all thought of the ending.
I was
some
just
people
about to bring
really
that up.
don't like the ending. I thought when I first saw it, I was expecting the bellhop to come like running and like fucking tackle him or kill him or whatever.
Because that's how she describes it in the beginning of the movie, so fuck me for expecting that,
instead,
I guess.
we see him just kind of like standing next to the husband. And
like haunted, like a haunted
ghost.
Mansion ghost. He's just
pretty
he literally
much
looks like the Hat Ghost.
And for a little bit, I was like, I don't know how I feel about the ending. But then when I watched it the second time and like ruminated on it a little bit more, Darcy had talked at the beginning as Ted was visiting her shop, where she makes a comment about people like stealing the items. And she's like, well, it's not a good idea to steal them because they're cursed. So people who have stolen them like come back like pretty soon after because they've gotten like terrible luck and are doing really badly and asking me for help in removing the curse. And at the end, my read of it, because she had told Ted that she wants to see his life like crumble. She wants to see him lose his practice, to lose his girlfriend, I think, to get arrested, if I remember correctly. And she had no intention of killing him. She wanted him to be, like, ruined. And so my read is that she sent him this cursed item, and now he's in possession of it, and we see, like, the ghost standing next to him, and he's now, like, an active curse on Ted. And, like, all of his shit is about to kind of start falling apart because he's cursed. But then in the Wikipedia, as I was reading it, I was like, oh, there's also a kind of read on the ending where, similarly to how we didn't see the orderly kill Danny, and instead it just cuts and then we see the blood afterwards, it could be a thing of, like, we're seeing, like, just before, like, the shit is to go down.
That was the read I had too.
Cuts. That's the read you had?
Yeah, because she did say that people who ring the bell get killed by the orderly.
Or by the bellhop.
Or by the bellhop. So what Nina and I have been talking about was, it was one of those, like, hand him his own thing into his hands, and he can either be like it, because either way she wins, because either he A, believes that this is a deeply cursed bell and he can't touch it, and thus has to admit that the wooden man he denied is real, and she did actually try and kill him and everything, and that she would have been successful if it weren't for freak situations. Or B, he rings it out of a moment of hubris because he's like, I don't believe in this, and I'm so cool and smart and right. And then the bellhop kills him.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting moment about his character specifically, where it's like we learn whether or not you don't know for sure, but you learn whether or not he genuinely believes what he's saying when he's talking to Ivan and stuff, and when he's talking to Danny and Darcy about what they believe and stuff, and to Yana about the same thing, whether or not he's denying their experiences genuinely, or because he really doesn't believe, or if he does have a bit of superstition there and he's been prideful this whole time. And I think what we end up seeing is him lying to himself, because he hesitates for so long. I have to believe that he's kind of just like, no, I am the big smart winner man, and so I'm going to press the button. And so I agree on the read that, like, that is, like, right before he dies.
I think that's a good read.
I want him to die, read. So.
Mood.
But yeah, I also kind of didn't know how to feel. I think we all three didn't, because no one I discussed this too.
I walked right into the bedroom and I was like, I don't know if I liked that ending. I feel like it was a little abrupt. And Nina's like, what do you mean you felt like it was abrupt? And personally, I had the sudden realization as he gets back to the house, I'm like, wait a minute. All of our focal characters are dead. All of our side characters are dead. It's just Ted left. This movie must be about to finish. What the fuck? Because I was ready for, like, another little bit. You know, I was ready for the Woodman to come back because he couldn't just burn it up and get rid of it. But the Woodman's nothing without someone puppeting him. So, you know, he is just dead. And I don't know. I was really initially very bummed out about it. And the more I read about how many people love the ending of this and how they think that the ending is fucking chilling and shit, I'm like, I guess I'm warming on it, but I don't think it's as good as some people claim it is, personally.
I can agree with that. I think that the ghost model is a little bit cartoonish compared to how
it feels almost like Wes Anderson-esque.
The posture and everything, it's like if they took away pastels from Wes Anderson, this is what it would be.
I will say one thing. I found one picture of the thing online that looks like the correct model to me. And looking at it, it is a, like, Spirit Halloween-esque, like, still prop that was just kind of standing there from what I'm able to find. So... on the feeling abrupt, I feel like this might be a Love Lies Bleeding situation where if you watch it knowing when it ends, then the pacing will when and how it ends, then the pacing kind of works itself out on a second watch. Because I found this with watching the more movies I watch, the more I find that the first watch of anything, the pacing takes a second. I feel like I've seen a lot of movies recently where I was like, this could have ended 3 different times. And I'm wondering which ones are going to get worse about that. I suspect Trap is going to get a lot worse on the this movie could have ended 3 times issue. But stuff like, there are other movies that I've seen where it's like, wow, there are moments where this could have ended. And it kept going, that on a second watch, I'm like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now that I know that there are more scenes coming, it doesn't feel as excruciating. There are very few movies that I, on the first watch, have felt were perfectly paced versus coming back to them. So.
Yeah. I think I was much more prepared for the ending the second time around.
That makes sense. I want to watch it again anyway, but I will report back when I do.
Yeah.
Now that it's going to be on Shudder. Hey, Shudder.
Hey, Shudder shout out. Shudder, sponsor us. Talk about you when we already talk about you.
Yeah, right? Literally. It's like we're already like, Shudder's like one of the only streaming services that's worth having. If you're a horror movie podcast, it talks about horror movies anyway.
Hey.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to spin our wheels a little bit here. Emma, do you have anything else to say?
I was about to ask if we wanted to read some Noah's notes.
Let's go.
I'm getting into position. I'm locking in. Noah says, am I about to be jealous of this nice big house?
50-50.
50-50. I would agree. Noah and I both have a thing for big, cool old houses. I think Radio Silence has been the only filmmakers I can think of that have really tapped that well.
While simultaneously, while I like big old houses like this, I would hate living in this house because I hate the dark. And this isn't another dig at the poor lighting. This is me being like, I would be seeing things in the dark all the time, and I would hate living here.
Yeah.
Too many long hallways.
Also, because it doesn't have like cell signal and stuff.
Yes, that is an added bonus.
I'd be getting fiber internet there immediately.
I'm not even starting to remodel without web in that place.
Because you mentioned them, I meant to talk about this earlier in the episode, but I forgot. Because silly old me. I mentioned this in our podcast Discord, but a couple days ago I discovered that Mike Flanagan has a podcast series that he started where he invites like horror movie directors to come talk with him, and then they have like 3 episodes per director. The first episode is them talking about like filmmaking and all this other stuff. The second episode is they'll pick one of the movies that the person has directed, and they basically do a director's commentary through the entire movie. So you can like watch it alongside them as they're talking about it. And then the third act is kind of like a debrief. But the first set of episodes is with Radio Silence, and they watch Ready or Not.
Nice.
That's so
And I
good.
listened to the first act of it, and it was really good, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited to watch like along with the second act sometime soon.
I'm definitely going to have to do that because Ready or Not, we all know I really love that movie. Not quite as much as Abigail, but
Embarrassing.
They talk about Abigail a lot, so
yay! If there's one thing we know about me, it's that I really like Abigail. Noah says, I love the camping in my house while I renovate it thing. One of my favorite TikTok things that I never want to consistently see.
Is that a TikTok thing?
So on my TikTok, every now and then I get house renovation TikTok for like 30 seconds. And it's someone who's like, yeah, I'm cleaning out all this fucking asbestos from this house, and I'm living in a pop-up tent in my living room. And I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, oh yeah, this is chopped up carcinogen filling the walls. It looks like foam. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then they're like, I had to redo this entire hardwood floor with a big belt sander, and then I refinished, and I'm like, ooh, what the fuck? That's great. You know.
Noah, you would have loved HGTV.
No, I hate that shit. That's no fun at all. Guy who is covered in dirt because his bathroom still doesn't work and only showers at truck stops, and is like, I'm remodeling this house I got for $100. The only thing, I have to live in it. And it's just like, yeah? And you have kids?
Yeah. That it is kind of like reality TV in a way. Noah says, I like Asylum Fellow's art. He seems nice. This is really funny because Noah just says Danny and Darcy's name a lot in this sentence.
I said first girl and her sister, and then I fixed it to their names because I wanted to make sure that I got the right names in my head.
Oh, yeah. That's valid.
Noah says, Yana seems convinced Danny's ghost is here, Ted. Maybe be at all supportive, which is...
Ted is kind of an all-timer shit boyfriend.
Yeah, it's too bad this movie came out this year and didn't make it into Dead Meat's horrible horror husbands episode.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think that he. I don't think he would have placed top 5.
There are pretty bad,
real terrible guys.
I want to watch that. I haven't seen that episode yet. No,
it's good.
Noah says, I really appreciate Yana being nice to Ted about things and saying things like, "Yeah, you're going to want a keepsake from your dead wife. Come on, man."
When he's like, I don't care about that camera. You can throw it away. And she's like, you don't have to get rid of all your wife's things. It's okay. I'm not mad.
Yeah.
Noah says, I don't hold too much against Yana here, but I really don't care for Ted at all. Darcy rocks, though. Noah says, oh my God, this is really... Noah's not even kidding about what he said earlier about his opinions on Yana. I'm souring on Yana quickly every time she talks. Then immediately after that, he says, never mind, she's so real for saying that the wooden man is a weird gift.
These are the last 3 things Nina read. Bop, 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 in a row notes. Nothing in between. I don't hold much against her. I actually quite don't like her. Never mind.
I think she's such a real character, because if I had plans to go out with friends, like in the town, and then suddenly my boyfriend's like ex-sister-in-law like comes over and needs heavy accommodations, and he's like, oh, I gotta go to work, and you somehow get stuck, and she brings like a creepy ass doll, I'd be a little abrasive.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, like, she and Darcy are bitches to each other in a very real way, where, like, Darcy's like, what, you don't like the doll? And Yana's like, no, I don't fucking like the doll. Are you kidding me? And it's like, you know what? I actually love their interactions so much. They're both so sassy with each other in a way that's like, they're both very clearly in their head, like, I'm only being nice to you because Ted's wife died a year ago.
The, like, Darcy being like, you said I look dumb, and Yana being like, no, I didn't. And he's like, and she was like, well, you implied that my sister was, and we're twins, and we look the same. So you kind of did.
I loved all that so much.
Oh my God, I love it so much. Noah says, I love all the sketches of the wooden dude. I also love him just lurking in the background. He's a presence. I love how this movie is not afraid of just having him in the background of these shots. It had me looking for the kind of weeping angel thing where it's like, is he going to have moved between like just random shots? Noah says... What does this mean? Noah says Darcy doing ye old call out post while Woody's just vibing in the background.
I don't know, man. I wrote it when I was watching the movie.
Okay, I don't know what that means either, but it's a great note. Noah says, I love that Yana simultaneously is like, I saw Danny's ghost, and also says, I don't believe in psychics. Look, she has to draw a line somewhere, dude.
Ghosts, real. People who see ghosts, fake.
Noah says... Do you want me to skip this one?
Read it.
This one's funny to me, and maybe no one else. Noah says, Olin Boole's name is the best clue we've had that we're in jolly old, and then he has a strike through on the word England and has replaced it with Great Britain. And that's because I came in and was like, oh man, this is the most Irish movie ever. And Noah's like, we're in Ireland with this one? And I'm like, yeah, They are all Irish except Ted. And he's like, well, I have to amend a note.
I learned how to do strike through with a shortcut on Google Docs.
Hey, let's go. We learning.
Yeah. Shortcuts in Google Docs. I know how to do italics. I don't know how to do strike through. Noah says,
Control-Shift-X.
Thank you, Noah.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what Noah says in the notes, though.
That's the shortcut.
Noah says, I hate this one aide. Seems pretty shit. He's talking about Ivan. Noah says, I wonder if Ivan did see a ghost since Darcy doesn't have weird eyes. What's that referring to? Do you remember?
He talks about walking into the Oddity shop and getting freaked out by the identical sister to Danny, who's sitting there with her weird eyes. But every time we see Danny or Darcy, she's got normal eyes. You know, she doesn't have weird eyes.
I think he's just being ableist.
Well, that's possible, but also whenever we see Danny's ghost, she does have like weird eyes.
Oh.
And also,
I was willing to take it at face value because Ivan's a piece of shit. But
I mean, yeah, that's fair. But it's just because of the way Ted looked all weird. When he's like, oh yeah, I walked in and I thought I saw your wife, but because their hair color's different and everything, my mind
that's really interesting.
Says that I think he saw like
that
Danny's
he
ghost.
Saw Danny and thought that it was Darcy because he did then later learn, oh, she has a twin. Oh, that makes sense. I didn't see her ghost, but he did. I like that read.
Maybe not, but I think it's good.
Noah says, are you laughing at these?
Yeah.
Noah says, 5 big old holes in this guy's noggin so you can bowl him. And then immediately after that goes, or fill it with hair too. That's cool, I guess. Noah says, I'm not reading that one, but that's funny. Noah says, Noah says, and you know what? Yana didn't do anything here. She deserves to be able to run. Ted, though, not a fan. Real shitter. Danny can kill him, I guess. Ivan needs to die, but I wouldn't be mad if Ted doesn't make it.
This was, I believe,
directly before the reveal that Ted even had anything to do with it. Noah just hated Ted off the because the next note is fucking what? And then followed by Ted, you had Hit Squad Ivan come in? Brother, please. Noah says, there are a lot of notes that boil down to this next one, which is great atmosphere. Wish I could fucking see anything. There's like 3 or 4 sprinkled through here about that. Noah says, no, rip Woody. Rest in peace indeed, Woody. He got burned.
Sad.
Noah says, damn dude, I do love that Ted has been cultivating Ivan as his weird little attack dog this whole time. It seems like Ted was keeping Ivan on hand just in case he ever wanted to kill someone. It's unclear if that, because this has been going on with Ivan for a long time, it's unclear if that's Danny from the get-go or if he just well, obviously he's the type of person to want to get away with being the reason someone died, whether or not he does it himself. He does this multiple times throughout the movie because he does it with Darcy as well. So it feels like this is an interesting type of character because he works with psychiatric patients as a doctor, and it seems like he's the type of person who has a mental disorder himself, but has convinced himself that because he's not personally acting on these things himself, he is not, he holds himself above his patients, which is really fucked up of him as well. And so he's the type of person who thinks as long as he's not directly killing people, he is above he's not a murderer. It really feels like that is something that he is, because that's how he kills people consistently through the movie, is either setting up an accident or making someone else do his dirty work, like with the cannibal at the end. So I think Ted's a really interesting character in that realm. Anyway, just had to get off on that tangent because we didn't mention it earlier. Noah says, speaking of the ending, oh, we finally got the chewer on the scene. Been seeing old Chewy for a while now from behind. Can't wait till he really kicks it off. And then immediately followed by, oh, the toes. Come on, man. Don't start there. And then we get the evil bellboy bell. And then that's the end of our notes.
Nice. Good notes.
Good, genuinely great notes, Noah.
Yeah.
Noah has the
Thank
most
you so
awkward
much.
smile. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us as we talk about Oddity. Next time, we are watching Scream, and I'm incredibly excited because I love that movie. Except the studio is shitters. Important note. But the movie, great. So, looking forward to watching and talking about it. Until next time, tell the people who you are, because I always end.
Well, I'm going to go first then, because Nina's not paying attention. I've been Noah. You can find me as Bubba the Bad, BUBBADABAD. I'm having this moment where I realize I say I've been Noah all the time, but it's as if I'm playing the character of Noah, and that's not actually
your
who
real
I am.
name is...
Why? Whoa,
No,
whoa.
it's not. No, not that one.
We can't get that out on the podcast. But you can find me at Letterboxd. I'm continuing to do Hooptober through the rest of the month. At time of listening, y'all are going to see that I logged probably like a shit ton of shitty Dracula movies because me and my friend Rye are both doing Hooptober, which means as much as we can manage, we are both watching each other's lists also. It's going great.
That's fun.
But I'm also on Twitter. I'm taking a little bit of a step back from posting at the moment, but by the time this goes up, hopefully I'm back. I've just been so tired. This is day 6 in a row of work, and I'm just, I don't want to be here. I have too much shit on me.
I don't want to be here anymore. That is an I think you should leave joke. We're happy to be here on this podcast. Also, I've been Nina. You can find me on Instagram at Nina Wolverina, where I post about the books that I write and the art that I do, and the X-Men a lot. You can also find me on Twitter. I am active there, but you wouldn't know it by the way that my tweets are getting buried. So I'm moving to being more active on Instagram. It's working out better for me there. You can also find our podcast at Casual Horror Pod on Twitter. Not super active there either. The best way to keep in touch with us is to join our Discord. You can reach out to the hosts. I think I'm the most active on social media. So if you find me at Nina Wolverina and DM me, I will give you the secret code to enter our Discord. Ha ha ha. But yeah, Emma.
It's me, Emma, also known as Emma Panada. I have social media accounts all over the places, but I haven't really been using them. I'm making a game called All the Witches, and you can find updates and information about that at the All the Witches Kickstarter and the updates page. I've also been secretly streaming on a side account, and I'm following a learn how to draw in a year kind of tutorial video series. And I'm on day 22 of that.
Nice.
So I've been streaming every day for kind of like an hour and a half on average, and just drawing. This first month, it's a lot of like art studies and figure studies, but yeah, that's going well. And if you want to follow my journey there, you can do so if you find my secret account. So thank you. But until next time, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. We hope you have a great rest of your couple weeks until we see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. I am ready to get started on this podcast, talk about this mood. Where is everybody?